Hello and welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to talk about the spiritual aspects of the knowledge of dopamine and how a lot of wisdom from different spiritual traditions, especially the esoteric traditions of different places and different cultures, point towards this mechanism of dopamine and these dopaminic urges that we all have. So let us first understand that the mind is a purely mechanical thing. In my previous video on dopamine and its spiritual counterparts, I've talked about the details of dopamine and how it actually affects our body and mind, how it affects our actions and our rewards. Dopamine is basically a neurotransmitter that is released when you perceive a reward and when you are anticipating this reward. So, for example, if you value something like a pen, for example, a child who is going to another class, who is progressing to another class, suddenly finds that he wants a pen and who wants to acquire it. Now, in this anticipation of this reward, he is increasing his dopaminergic levels. His normative dopamine level is increasing. So in acquiring this reward, he gets a sharp high sharp high in the level of dopamine in his body, and this high after receiving this reward drops down. So this knowledge of dopamine and how it interacts with our body, I've talked about it a lot in my previous video. If you haven't watched that video yet, I highly recommend you watch it, because I talk about the molecule of dopamine and serotonin and how they have an effect on our mind and on our bodies. Now, in this video, I want to talk about the spiritual aspects of our mind. So now let us look at the mind as a purely mechanical thing. The mind is usually very mechanical. Now, the pen, the child in the story that we just talked about, assigns a value to this pen. Now, this value is purely in his mind, in his reality. It is not in your mind, in your reality. To you, the pen is not valuable. To you, something else is valuable. Maybe the education of the child is more valuable than pen to the child. So everybody has those value systems, and everybody finds that they are somehow being associated to certain value systems. Now, as a person evolves in his spiritual endeavors, when he realizes that the physical objects are not really that valuable, that gaining money or gaining success is not really that valuable, but it's just the perception of value. A person moves inwards, and especially when a spiritual person moves inwards, he assigns values to abstract concepts. This is a huge problem in the religious and spiritual community, because again we have moved our perception of value from a physical object towards something that is abstract, something that is a concept of our minds. Now, to a Hindu, a book like the Quran is not much valuable. To a Muslim, a book like Quran is very valuable. And to a scientist, none of the books are valuable. Now, this value that we assign is based on our belief systems and our experiences with this object. Now, sometimes we do this in a very abstracted and in a very delusional manner. We assign values to mental concepts, and we think that these mental concepts are somehow related to truth. Now, in every area here we have talked, for example, in sales and marketing and in spirituality, there are people who exploit those who are not knowledgeable in these fields. So, for example, a person a sales and marketing person will use this knowledge that a person values something more to sell it to you, and to him, outsmarting you is more valuable than anything else. So now he derives his dopamine from outsmarting others. So this we can see uh, this tendency of outsmarting others or seeking dopamine in every field. An intellectual is seeking his rewards through completing a book, or maybe writing an essay. Or a person who is religious is associating his reward with praying or with doing puja. And a person who is meditating is associating his reward with completing his meditation, and so on and so forth. But the interesting thing is, our mind is very mechanical in the nature. It doesn't matter if this reward is inherently bad or inherently good. The only thing that matters is to the mind is that acquiring of reward. Now, a lot of social media marketers and digital marketers also utilize this knowledge and influence people who don't have this knowledge. And this influence is actually very much deeper than you might think. Digital marketers use many deceiving techniques to hypnotize and to make a person commit something very mindlessly. There are certain automatic responses that we have when it comes to getting rewards. And whenever a person knows what you desire, then he can eventually manipulate you in certain ways. So in this day and age of digital media and digital marketing, it is very important to be aware of who is having authority over you and who is making you more influential, who is influencing you. So again, coming back to the topic of dopamine and spirituality, let us understand the endeavor of spirituality here. Let us forget about everything we know about dopamine and look at our mind as a purely mechanical thing. Now, when we look at the mind in a very purely mechanical thing, we understand that manipulation can happen at many levels. It can happen in the physical realms, for example, in objects like a purse or maybe a new gadget. And it can also happen in the spiritual terms. There are a lot of gurus and a lot of people who want to sell you happiness, who want to, who know that you are already depressed, and when you are depressed, they catch you in that moment and try to sell you this thing called happiness, which can never really be bought. So, and this has been a teaching that wise people of our spiritual traditions have been telling us for many years. Even though science has recently just discovered this molecule of dopamine and how reciprocity and how it can make a person more susceptible to this mechanical activity of the mind, people of spiritual traditions have been talking about this nature since many centuries. Now, the Buddha's famous teaching is never to accept gifts. It is to move away from physical aspirations, and the Buddha actually went even above normal Abrahamic religions. He knew that the nature of mind was also to grasp on to these theories and to these religious abstractions, and hence he always stressed over not answering these metaphysical questions that people used to ask him, because he knew that the mind will assign value to these things. That is why that is why many traditions, not just in Buddhism, even in Islam and in Abrahamic religions, it is stressed upon not giving value to physical objects. So then the Buddha also said not to acquire any gifts from people because it puts you in a situation of reciprocity. Now this law of this law of the mind of reciprocity is very mechanical in nature. That is, we feel as if we are indebted to someone who has helped us. And this knowledge of reciprocity and this innate tendency of human beings to respond to other people who have favored you can be utilized by a lot of sales and marketing people, and it has been utilized a lot. So there are manipulators and there are people who will take advantage of this knowledge. They'll take advantage of this knowledge and exploit you, because you at the end of the day will be very mechanical. Only after you have committed a thing, when you have bought the thing, you will realize that you were wrong, that you have been duped. It is similar in our spiritual endeavors also. So now let us understand the spiritual aspects of dopamine and how it can affect you. So, I talk about a lot about this story that Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa used to talk about. It is about a dog who bites on a bone thing and cuts himself, cuts his teeth, cut his gum, and thinks that the blood released from his own gum is due to the bone, and he associates the bone with this taste. He thinks that the bone is very tasty. In fact, it was just his own blood. Now, what happens when you go on a detox? What happens when you stop acquiring things and look at the mind very carefully? When you look at all the aspects of the mind. Now, there are two things that you can do. One thing you can do is to actually sit and decide once and for all that you are not going to acquire things, that you are not going to indulge in this game of your mind, in this pursuit of reward. When you do that, it is called dopamine detox. But this ritual or this procedure of going on a dopamine detox is divinized in a lot of spiritual traditions. In Islam, we have something called Jamaat, where people go and live in mosques for days, and especially even in our spiritual tradition, we see that there are something called retreats, where we don't indulge in the materialistic activities, and we try to isolate ourselves. Now, what happens in a dopamine detox really is that we derive dopamine from natural resources, from not from our mechanistical nature, but we derive it from our own soul. Now, it is interesting to see the difference between a religious person's worldview and a person who is more materialistically motivated. So, for example, if you see a person who is becoming more religious, you'll see that he is not much interested in materialistic values, in physical objects, and you will see that eventually there is a decline in his pursuit towards career or towards material gains. This is interesting to see because he has shifted his value towards something that is more abstract in nature, something that is creation of his own mind. Now then, what we do when we are in this Jamaat or in this spiritual retreat or in any if you have maybe gone to an ashram to stay there for a while, you are basically doing a miniature version or a spiritual or a divinized version of a dopamine detox. So here what you are doing is you're not indulging in the mind's activities. You're not giving the mind its rewards, and you are indulging in something that is more inner to you. Now, a person who is closer to reality will understand that he is not the mechanical mind. And only when this realization happens, when you understand that most of your behavior and most of your actions are, are very mechanistical in nature, you glimpse into something that is more closer to you. You understand that you are not the mind. You understand that the mind and the body is purely instrumental. They can be used and they can be directed in some way or the other. And you understand that you are actually something that is transcendental, that is awareness, you are consciousness. And human beings are the only organisms that are fully conscious because they are able to look into their minds and this nature of mind, this nature of mechanical movement. Now, a human who is higher in the hierarchical system of this world, not just in spiritual endeavors, even in materialistic endeavors. In this video, in this YouTube channel, I talk a lot about how spirituality and materialism is very interconnected. As it is not like a different thing when we are isolating each other. Just now I talked about an example. I've given you an example of how a religious person is assigning values to the abstract concept. So a person who is higher up the hierarchy understands the nature of your mind, of his or her mind. And he uses this knowledge, he uses his own awareness to manipulate others. This mechanical, if you want to understand how a dictator dictates over hundreds of people or thousands of people and gives them directions to even kill thousands of people, and these soldiers and these people who are working under him are purely hypnotized. They are purely mechanical. And a person who is more aware will understand his nature, this nature of the mechanical mind, and he will either exploit it or he will spread this knowledge for the betterment of humanity. So once you realize that you are awareness, you are consciousness, you are the soul, you'll start to look at your life in a completely different manner. This is also called awakening. When you are awake, you are not in a dream. Things are in your control. You are able to look at the tendency of the mind. You are able to look at its desires. You are not just able to look at your own desires, you are also able to look at other people's minds. You are able to see how they are reacting to certain things. You are able to see their desires and how they can be manipulated. Of course, a wise person does not utilize this knowledge for benefit of his own gains. Now, the Buddha also famously said that gods are someone who are completely desireless. A person who is desireless understands truly the nature of the mind, and he extracts and he dives into reality itself because he is bathing in the truth. To him, reality is moldable. The reality that is perceived by the mind is moldable. It is manipulatable because he is something that is transcendental. He is something that is not the mind, that is not the area of the mind or the body. And when you transcend, you access what is called Satchitananda. you access infinite knowledge, you access infinite bliss, and you access truth in its purest form. So then, I also want to point out to the nature of the seeker. The truth seeker not only wants to understand certain aspects of a certain thing, he wants to understand everything. He wants to understand how even these abstract concepts that people believe in, he wants to understand, he wants to explore different physical aspects as well. He wants to go to places, he wants to explore things, and he wants to learn from different cultures and traditions. And if you are a seeker of the truth, then you will find yourself doing this. First, you will explore the world, then you will explore abstract concepts, then you will be more interested in, in energies, then you will be more interested in the psychologies of people. And at the end, you will realize that every single thing in this world, the Shakti that we see, is moldable, it is controllable, and you can mold them like a sculpture. So thank you for watching this video. And so the dopamine that we seek is really the mechanical nature of our mind, and understanding its workings can help you grow in not just material success, even in spiritual success. So thank you for watching this video.